A narrative is the lens that you see things through. It's your perspective. And right now, the predominant perspective isn't representative of our community.
Our young people often feel excluded from policies that are being shaped in our community.
They don't see themselves in the media representation that is available.
One of the things that makes it very difficult to speak up about issues is the challenging sort of dominant culture.
We could not tolerate this culture of hate and divisiveness in our communities.
Changing narratives and storytelling is very important for empowering people who feel disempowered.
When they start learning how things are supposed to be compared to how they are, they start seeing how important it is to go out and change that narrative, change what's happening.
That is what Kern Sol does by empowering young people to tell their own stories.
There had been an incident at my college campus where vandals were plastering stickers with white supremacist phrases and ideology across posters for events that involve people of color on newspaper kiosks. A professor from the school wrote an opinion piece in our local paper defending the vandalism as free speech. I, in response, wrote my own opinion editorial piece for South Kern Sol, which was later published in the local paper, where I raised the question of, is it free speech if it's, first of all, if it's illegal? And if it can harm others or incite violence. I was publicly accused of defamation on school campus and on a local radio show. The response from the community tended to be far more positive than the hatred that I was getting from a few individuals. So it led me to continue in my reporting and stand by what I said.
Being an activist and writing for a journalism organization has definitely been a challenge for me because sometimes we come into the field with these really strong opinions and we don't want to waver from them. What I've been doing to change the narrative is taking both sides and putting together a story that makes sense for what is actually real in our community.
The more that we know, the more educated we are about each other and the different viewpoints, the less hate that won't be around.
I learned the importance of sticking by what you think is valuable and truthful and not backing down from your reporting or your editorial pieces because somebody disagrees with you, because I have a right to give my perspective and to uplift the voices that I feel like are not being uplifted.
South Kern Sol is operating in a very challenging media environment. Folks these days aren't reading newspapers anymore, unfortunately. It doesn't mean the stories have gone away. And I think that South Kern Sol is innovating in ways of doing storytelling, cultivating new journalists, entering into digital media space, doing live television.
Our young people have access to their own public affairs show. They have the power to decide what stories are important to them, and usually they decide to cover the ones that are not being lifted up on our local mainstream media.
Welcome to In the 661, where we talk about issues facing our community, particularly the youth of our community.
In the 661, youth are put on there to speak out about different things that matter. It opens up the opportunity to let other people know what's going on.
Here in Kern County, there's been tons of police-involved shootings. There's high rates of ICE, so a lot of kids living in fear for their immigration status. What would you say to give the young people here hope?
People are working as we speak, including a lot of young people, to try to make sure that the people that are in position that are appointing police chiefs and people who run the police force, we want to make sure that they have an interest in the community and come from the community.
Over the past few years, that narrative has been slowly but surely changing, and I think youth have been really leading that narrative change work.
South Kern Sol has made so many changes already in the community, and I'm so happy to be a part of them because I feel that being a part of this, I'm a part of the change.
Our young people have an opportunity to do journalism, which they might never have had that opportunity to do before.
Kern Sol has really shaped me to be more professional and skilled person.
South Kern Sol has just opened up so many doors for me and made it clear to me like the different opportunities that I have in life, and it's helped me to see what I want to pursue. They pushed me to be the absolute best that I can be, always making sure that I am being my true self and making sure that I feel comfortable talking about what I want to talk about.
South Kern Sol really inspired me to write my own truth and to stick to who I am.
South Kern Sol has been continually giving me the opportunity to get experience in my reporting as a young journalist.
What I see Kern Sol becoming is this bigger network that helps our youth of color and our marginalized communities to really grow into their own stories and learn how to tell their own stories without needing any outside sources to come in and dictate how they are.
My dream for South Kern Sol in the future is to have more funding and opportunity to do everything that they could, like more in the 661, making a podcast, have in the 661 be a weekly thing.
Young people who come from impoverished backgrounds, young people who come from immigrant communities, from rural communities, face challenges and discrimination that other folks don't face. And getting them to tell their stories in public is difficult. It's difficult for them, and they're difficult stories to hear, but they are important and they need to be told.
To other young reporters, I would say to push through when you're coming up against walls, because your voice deserves to be heard.
Don't be afraid to get involved, whether that's through writing or speaking out or organizing or even just voting, because your voice matters just as much as anyone else's voice in this county.
I think it's so important that you know how much you matter, how important your opinions are on things.
Young folks aren't going anywhere, that the work that they are doing, the stories that they care about are going to continue to grow and impact all of our lives. I look forward to the social change that young people are going to make in this community years from now. South Kern Sol is going to continue to cultivate this network of youth journalists and change makers that are going to be able to leverage all of that collective power to achieve that common goal of making Bakersfield and Kern County a better place for us all.
You have a story to tell, you have the power to uplift other people's stories, and you may receive criticism, but the work that you're doing is incredibly important.